Of EtherX. I've got Pete, who is a founder of Trust AI. I've got Ozzy from Wormhole, and I also have Prabal from Avail. So before we get started, just because I want people to understand from your own words what you do and what's your main point of focus right now, we're going to start with a quick elevator pitch style round. So I just want you to keep it quite short and sweet, but just give people a nice overview of what your company does and what's your main focus right now. And I think we can start to go to my right, and then we'll just go in a circular motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Aris, for the intro. Hey guys, I'm Ozzy from Wormhole. We're a leading multi-chain interoperability message passing protocol. We're connecting over 10 different runtimes, moving $1 billion a week. We have hundreds of assets issued through our native issuance platform, as well as billions and billions of dollars worth of blue chip securities issued multi-chain. So that's what.
So I'm Pete Chen from Trust AI. Trust AI is a trusted identity infra and credit infra for AI agent. So we want to build up identity infrastructure for AI agent economic, because we think that identity and credit scoring is very important for the new economic for AI agent. We will evaluate every AI agent for e-commerce as well as the payment in future. So we have indexed more than 20,000 AI agents in Web3, and we also evaluate each credit score for each AI agent, so that every other agent can select the high credit score agent for better payment and other financial service. Yeah, that's our work.
Hi, I'm Prabal. I'm one of the co-founders of Avail. At Avail, we are building the essential infrastructure for the multi-chain economy. We want to scale access for users, for developers of this multi-chain world. And for that, we have a DA product which scales chains. We have an access product which scales users' access to many different chains. And the applications can build liquid apps which are almost chainless and bridgeless and so on.
Hi, I'm Alessio. Thanks for having me here tonight. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Yellow Network. We build an ecosystem of applications in a diverse set of technologies, trying to achieve simplicity and a better user experience overall in the blockchain ecosystem. We do so by leveraging a decentralized clear network on top of which sits an SDK, very simple and easy to use SDK that allows for Web2 developers to build Web3 applications. Thanks, Zach.
Well, I'm Trent Toole from EtherX. EtherX is really the native DEX infrastructure for Linear. Since our launch in July, we've had obviously billions in volume. I say obviously because Linear has done very well since it's really ramped up, with over 10 million in revenue, essentially fees, returned back to our holders over that period of time. So very happy to be building alongside Linear. I always say the same thing: if you're interested in metadexes and understanding how we can scale the infrastructure, EtherX is the place to come. And if you know what Aerodrome has done for Base, that's the same thing we're doing for Linear. So obviously happy to chat to anybody about that, but yeah, that's us.
Awesome, thanks everyone. Okay, so the main sort of first topic of today's discussion is going to be around AI. I know it's a very juicy topic right now in pretty much the whole world. So I've had a look at the products that you guys are building, and I know a few of you are leveraging AI in some way, shape, or form in your product. And I'd be interested to know if that has always been in your product roadmap and vision, or if that's something that you've added on as you've seen it gain more traction in the ecosystem.
I can start. I think it has evolved over time as the need progresses. It is not as part of the roadmap because we build it for whoever the user of these applications, of these ecosystems are. And we are increasingly seeing like AI agents and tools around AI gaining more and more traction, more and more utility, more and more product market fit. And when we see that happening, we also have to enable them with navigating these cross-chain interactions, right? So that's why we had to build the tooling around them. Our partners are like these AI agent developers. They are apps which integrate existing AI agent toolkits and such, and we have to build around them because we are nothing without our developers who use us. So.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Does have an impact on the development of our SDK, as in more and more developers, day after day, they use AI on a daily basis to get kick off in the project. So one of my team's objectives is fundamentally to redesign the SDK and make it more AI friendly in order to simplify and make developers' life easier. So we know very well things work. I mean, we've been using AI for quite some time, but we use it as an idea, as a test bench for our ideas. And we know very well developers use AI on a basic technology basis. So that's what we're trying to do. I mean, we allocate a big room in our ecosystem for AI apps, especially for trading, of course. There is one of our very interesting projects that is actually building an AI bot for our trading network. So, I mean, it's something that we are embracing. It's change.
Yeah, so I want to share a story about Trust AI. So previously, we focused on the AI-powered identity, and especially the proof of humanity and the reputation scoring for on-chain wallets, such as Alinea. We are the largest proof of humanity provider for the airdrop and other scenarios. We provide on-chain attestation for reputation and proof of humanity. So later, when we predict that most interaction on-chain behavior will be done by AI agent. So we think that we should build up an identity infrastructure for not only on-chain wallet, but also the identity, but also the AI agent. So we also indexed all AI agents for their identity. We issue the DID for AI agent, and also to evaluate the credit scoring for AI agent. So we are the first implementation of ERC 8004. So we have the same idea, and we implement that with we call Agent Go product. So we think that is very good foundation for AI agent payment and also lending and other use cases in future.
We're at a bit of like an inflection point still, right? Because we talked about agents at the start of the year and in some of the builder panels. And the big issue then was I think a lot of retail didn't know how to invest in AI. And so there was a lot of meme coins that would represent an agent, for example. And that's what you can trade on or speculate on if you're in retail. I think what's been great, like now, just like you talked about, is that these agents, as they develop their use case, whether that's supporting individuals with lending, borrowing, or even creating your own artworks, whatever you want to do, that kind of stuff is being built, and that's what's the most exciting. And so if it's going to be audited by companies like yours, then that's fantastic. If it's going to be integrated in payments or whatever else, that's great. I think getting people to have that user experience or that UX that simplifies it for them is going to be the next big piece, because I don't think anybody in here wants to see another wave of meme coins representing an agent, just watching that thing go to zero. As much as I love tokenizing that and putting it on the desk, it wrecks the users.
No, definitely.
So it's not the future, right?
I'd say as well for us, we're focused on providing highly attestable, trusted data for these agents to be able to utilize. So, we provide data sources for over 50 chains where you can just query. You can query up to 255 arbitrary functions at one time with just one query. So one agent can be going and querying the user's balances across myriad chains, being able to make really informed decisions, and all of this is on-chain as well. So you can make financial transactions based on this data with a very, very high degree of trust. So we're focused on feeding this data in.
Okay, awesome. So I think, as obviously, just based on this, it does sound like we're gonna get more traffic and on-chain transactions due to agents being introduced in the space, and really and truly just because of the development force that we have, we are gonna get more mainstream adoption as well. I'm just curious, from your experience and perspective, what potential blockers do we see in scaling blockchains as we're gonna see more and more transactions volumes on-chain?
I think we have been talking about blockchain scale for a very, very long time, and I think right now we are at a point where the scale is there. the demand needs to now go up to the scale. That you can talk about a lot on you need more scale for a single chain to hold all the transactions in the world, but more problem is there on the demand side than on the supply side. And even if you see one of the most used blockchains today, many of them are actually bots, which are good. Because we are not talking about hypothetical scenarios, whether they are AI or not. They are actually coding agents which are taking over on-chain action. And I don't think like it's the scale which is the problem, it's the verifiability which is the problem. Like one of the things which I am pretty sure you guys are doing and many others might be doing that I don't know of is it's not about two agents communicating with one another. It's about how do they verify each other. We used to always say that you now have a cryptographic proof, but users don't care. If the proof verification is not embedded inside the wallet, the user doesn't even know that all of this is happening. They cannot spend cycles of their mind just going through proof verifications and such. They have a trusted relationship with their applications that they use. When they use Etherex, they trust the developers of their application. They do not want to get into the idiosyncrasies of how the proof is consumed or generated and so on. And that's where agents are very different from how humans work. Agents can make this actually a verifiable interaction, and that is where I think many of the ones that they are developing are actually coming forefront. You need non-trusted relationship, but verifiable relationship, which is very different from what. And thanks for cutting me off.
I totally agree, and I think agents will obviously be able to command myriad chains for different use cases. So you have more chain-specific use cases. The agent might want to use client-side proving an execution environment in Noir to avoid metadata leakage for users' hospital details, for example. And then they'll want to go over and use linear because the liquidity lives there, and then they'll want to interact with institutional funds that are tokenized on private chain, for example. And the agent will be able to do that in a much clearer way, and we'll be able to just pull on way more data points than we can. I mean, they're almost the perfect marriage in a sense. AI agents will be able to utilize blockchains to their full potential and fulfill the demand problem.
It's a good one too, because like, what's a real user? Because if you've got an agent that's coming across and trading on the chain, that is better than most other users, right? Like, because a lot of people don't want to trade on a Sunday. They have real lives. The agent, of course, doesn't. It's fantastic. So the more we can have them integrated, the better. And it's a useful way to scale an ecosystem, no matter what it is, because if you've got supported agents who are funded, and they're funded by probably users, then they can be helping to scale the ecosystem more effectively. And it's more efficient use of capital too. So great opportunity to scale that way. But again, it's going to come down to, well, I guess two things. One is there a sophisticated enough actor that can do it at scale? Maybe there might be a legal implication of wash trading concerns. But if it's not, then how does retail get involved in that again? So I know there's plenty of builders here who are doing that type of stuff to help the average user do it. And if they can trust that relationship, that as it checks particular smart contracts and other on-chain interactions, if it's doing that for the user, then that is a net benefit. So that's kind of like having someone who holds your hand. When you first get into crypto and you're nervous to click everything because you're like, oh, this is going to be a wallet drain, I'm going to get screwed. If you've got an agent that's doing it for you, it takes some of that away. You'll have that for everything. So and that could be a real benefit should be a benefit to scaling all ecosystems.
And just to talk about the wash trading point, I think the incentives are set wrong.
I don't condone that, obviously.
Yeah, I mean the incentives are set wrong, right? Like if you are taking transaction volume as a metric that you want to show off, then of course there will be wash trading. But once the incentives are not there, then I mean, who wants to spend on infrastructure to do wash trading if there is no incentive at the end of it?
Exactly.
Well, I was one of the parts of the team that launched the Cosmos Hub back in 2018. The value proposition is we're going to create the internet of blockchains. So the solution to scalability was to create a chain for each app. It didn't work, did it? I mean, yeah, it kind of worked as a demonstration that perhaps we don't really need hundreds of thousands, millions of blockchains. The thing is, I've seen this happen in the past. I've been in technology for 23 years roughly. The market always gets fragmented, and then there is sort of reconciliation. And what we try to do yellow is, okay, we understand there are a number of major networks. They're going to stick around, we believe so. So our take on scalability, even when it comes to the problem of scalability, you can scale in different ways, right? Vertically, horizontally, on-chain, off-chain. So our take is fundamentally an hybrid between off-chain, between off-chain and on-chain. And because at the end of the day, I mean, I remember very well 2018, 2017, the promise of blockchain, immutability, transparency, however, there is always a bottleneck in terms of performance. There is always an upper boundary and a lower boundary. So the take of yellow, and that's why this is truly the main reason why I joined the group. I'm very happy with what we are building at the moment. Is we want blockchains to emerge, even new ones, if there is room, if there is a reason for them. We just try to connect all of them and have the user decide what they need to, what they want to use. What we're building is fundamentally a layer, a general purpose layer for applications. And while the problem is scalability, I think scalability is a big issue. But honestly, let's face it, the problem in crypto now is adoption, retail adoption. I mean, I'm a former banker. Many use cases, I mean, if you have on banking, you use it, you lose your passport, you pick up your phone, you call the bank, and they give you a new passport. The same doesn't work for a 24-word passphrase. So that's adoption. Adoption, it's in a way a reconciliation between what we have underneath, so the infrastructure, and then the rest of the infrastructure built on top with existing infrastructure. I mean, that's what I think.
I think we're seeing a really interesting point in time right now compared to maybe a few years in the past. Maybe if you allow me to say what could be different. We're seeing really large payment institutions coming from sort of TradFi world coming on, deciding they're decisioning to build their own L1. You've got your Stripe, you've got your Circle that are coming in. That's really interesting. I think we have an inflection, maybe technologies. That's probably the thing that people say a lot, but you have verifiability through ZK, so you have co-processors off-chain. You've proven the AI is inferring on the data that it said it did. That's really helpful. TEs can be combined with ZK for scale. That can be really helpful too. And then with that and the AI layer to kind of make sense of the spaghetti, maybe we might see something different this time around, especially with this kind of the power with the institutions coming in with their separate L1s. So kind of maybe this is where it's going this time.
Yeah, I think I disagree with him, in the sense that the 24-word passphrase is gone, social logins are all in, most people use Privy, Dynamic, any of the embedded wallets. It's very simple, those things are, I think it will not be a problem at all in the next year, at least I think so. The problems of 2018 Cosmos network was about disparate blockchains, not talking to each other, not trusting each other. There were many other issues on how the stack evolved, and there were problems of that time. Today, I think Alinea borrows security from Ethereum. There is always about shared security. There is L2 networks, which you don't have to, you can run single sequencer, absolutely safe, secure, stage 2 rollups. And these things were not possible at that point in time. And that's why I think the problems of tomorrow are very different from the problems of yesterday. I think scale is no longer something that people are questioning at all. It's like, this sub-second latency, block times, these things are not a conversation at all.
Scalability barrier, right? So when you have a number of transactions so big that you can't keep going. We're not at that point because we haven't onboarded enough retail because our ecosystems are built for developers fundamentally. Please go.
No, please. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that was true. It will not be true in the next 2 years because financial rails are all coming on chain. The advent of all these big payment networks coming on chain means that, you're from a banker, right? So you know that all the banks are now just thinking of how to plug into blockchains, and so the demand side of us not having onboarded enough retail, we probably will have onboarded enough retail without the retail knowing, which is the dream. The dream of infrastructure is not to be user-facing always. The dream of infrastructure is to power the world without even anyone knowing, and that's probably will be the success of blockchain.
It's on us to build the solution. I wouldn't leave it with them because they're not very good at building solutions. I mean, yeah, they are, but it's moving quite slowly. Yeah, I agree with you.
Cool. Thanks for the back and forth. That was pretty good. So I think we can all agree that obviously we're gonna get more volume across, whether that's like gonna come from the retail side, from the agentic side, I'm curious from your side, Pete, if we're gonna have more humans and agents sharing the same networks, what exactly is gonna look in practice the trust layer, and how is that gonna become on a mainstream level adopted as well?
Yes, so I want to emphasize two points. One is user experience about, so you know the AI, and another is about the trust layer. Yeah, so you know that the AI agent can help users to improve the user experience when the mass adoption, especially AI agent will know your intent very well than yourself, and he can help you to execute across the different chain and across the different tokens, something like that. On the other hand, we also need a trust layer, something like reputations or the credit. So according to my experience in Web 2, because I came from the Alipay for payment many years and the financial service, so we have the credit scoring system for payment and the financial system for many years, and also the reputation, like for Amazon system, they have a reputation system for merchant, so that the commerce become simple and efficient. But without the reputation and credit, actually, it's hard to scale a lot, especially for lending. You know, especially even with the mature of the Web3, the crypto, still over collateral. You know, but in Web 2, in traditional financial service, with the FICO score, with the credit score, you can get on credit powered lending, service. So I think that bring the credit and reputation infrastructure to AI agent is very important for future more efficient and trust financial service and payment. Yeah, so we are building such infrastructure for AI agent.
One thing which is really interesting that I've seen also coming from Web 2 payments space that people are building. One really interesting example is these guys are building open banking with Noir, open banking with Noir ZK. So you could do an account information services, an AIS call on a user's bank account the same way that a Web 2 credit rating protocol would do to pull the user's transaction data, but you can pull that on-chain in a verifiable way. And the user's done their SCA and their strong customer authentication, you can pull a Web 2 credit score on-chain using on-prem ZK, client-side, everything. Really, really interesting, I think. Yeah.
I want to add one more. So you know that we also want to build a financial inclusion, because we found that a lot of people, they don't have the banking account, but on crypto world, they can have a wallet very easily. So with the on-chain behavior combining with the off-chain behavior together, we can build up a more comprehensive and more inclusive credit system for everyone, not for the high-end people. So that is our vision. We think that is very important.
100%. The cost of access to these financial services, as we all know, it goes down by orders of magnitude. You've got services like Rarimo and ZK Passport and blockchains like Stellar. These things start to compose, and it brings the cost of issuing financial instruments and accounts down to pennies. Under $1 versus hundreds of dollars. It's a real revolution, I think.
So are we close? I'm just thinking, to shamelessly shill, obviously linear. How close are we to be in a position where you can onboard somebody who is not super literate in really in any of the managing their finances necessarily, to be able to say, okay, you deposit your money onto Linear, and you can use a fiat on-ramp like MetaMask card, for example. We will put it in LPs for you, it'll be managed, and we'll manage how much is staked in Aave to come across as a payment layer to use your MetaMask card later on. In other words, how do we get someone who doesn't necessarily have to touch their bank at all to be able to come on chain and do these things? And is an agent in a position to do that, and if so, when? I guess that's the question. I speak to people who are developing agents and they're doing things all the time. Normally they're working out risk-adjusted sort of, they're using TradFi strategies on how you might do a various portfolio management or something like that. They play around with hedging strategies on Perplexes, and then they get excited when they get cross-chain. How can we go through an actual life cycle for a user? Are we there yet? And this is probably a question for you guys, but like how far away are we? I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I think we work a bit with the Finternet Foundation. So the Finternet Foundation is built by the NPCI, which is India's payment is done through UPI, and the founders of UPI are now working with the global consortium of banks, including MIS of Singapore and others. And they're now doing a pilot project in Oceania and such, where digital payments are not a thing. Like you don't even have ATMs a lot. You still go to bank and write a check and get the funds and so on. So there we are seeing actually people now starting to use all of this, right? I mean, the crux of the matter is that they don't realize that it's actually crypto. They don't care that it's about their financial application being done. So if they can make a payment, if they can lend, if they can do something like that, then it's fine. And it's the builder's responsibility actually to actually safeguard the user so that it doesn't get run. Like, we talk about it in a hand-wavy fashion where we say like, okay, how can I just go and lend it? But lend it to what? In what deposit? Like, in what stable coin even, right? I mean, last few weeks have shown us that even a stable coin is not stable, right? So it is a full responsibility of the developers when they're abstracting user-level operations and making user-level decisions. So I think AI agents, trusted networks, like a little bit of help with the data and a little bit of help from all of us will probably allow them to make more informed choices where you get those mutual fund style fund managers, which can be AI agents who can assess the security, the risk appetite, and then go ahead and do it. It's all possible.
But you mentioned a couple of interesting keywords: security, and also you mentioned something. It's on us, it's our responsibility. And I fully agree with you. I mean, so far what I've seen, we told people, in a way, we convey this message that security comes at the cost of ease of use, which isn't true. It's not true. It's a false conundrum. It's false. It's just not it. And the thing is, you have to design systems that are secure. I mean, what is the biggest, largest surface of attack? The human factor. PEPKC. Problem exists between keyboard and chair. That's what. So you have to design a system in a way that people are okay with using it. I mean, how many iPhone users or Android users know exactly how the internet works? TCP/IP, the rest. They don't. My mom is 75 years old. She's quite happy with her Android. That's the thing. And that's with adoption. And then you can build the rest at that point.
Okay, thank you. So I want to bring the discussion a bit away from AI and more at like the lower level, just overall blockchain discussion, and more about like just trading as well. So just curious from everyone's, like, this is a bit more like a hot take kind of question a bit. Do you guys believe we get industry-wide standards for cross-chain communication? And do you think that would be useful, or is not going to be useful from a business perspective for different companies?
Yeah, I think there's a group of about 500 of us that have been debating this for well over a year. There's embedded incumbencies, there's lock-in, there's simple questions like, do we make the messages broadcast, or should they have a destination chain ID built in? There's also out of ecosystem, so if you're looking at Solana or other runtimes, how do you communicate? I think Ethereum can make some signals. I think the EF and the teams are looking to make some signals in the very near future and at the moment around how they believe this should go, and I think that's a great signal for commoditizing these interactions across layers. But until we have L2s, until we have like probability proofs being generated, L2s, linears, many steps in the right direction, I'm sure it's great, but until we're able to reduce those times down, there's always going to be a market for faster than finality fills, and it's always going to stay fragmented until then.
So I think they have done a fantastic job of trying to standardize things, and many others, of course, their peers. The sad reality is it's very hard to standardize something like that, and especially at today's time when you will see more and more chains which are not fundamentally don't want to even have a standardized things. They want to push for standards which are helpful for them. Like for example, if you have seen Apple trying to fight for lightning cables, lightning ports in their phones for very, very long, right? Unless you came in and said like, okay, you have to enforce USB-C. And it's not that your iPhone has changed at all, right? But just that they want to have very high degree of control over their ecosystem, very high resistance to leave their ecosystem, and every small bit that they can do to control that experience, they will go the extra mile to do it. So everything is not permissionless innovation anymore, because blockchains, as we know, are changing. It's becoming more and more widely adopted, which means that there will be those forces which will, push against it. I think we collectively have to all agree and do better, but my hot take is it is tough.
It's a good point, right? Because that's a matter of motivation. If you're one of the bigger chains, the last thing you want to do is make it easier to leave. If you're a smaller one, then you want everyone to be able to come across. But the power sits with the bigger chain, so it's kind of...
You've got the bigger chains literally asking, like, why would we do this?
Well, exactly.
Sitting in the room. And I think about even like Web2's analog with open banking. PSD2 Payment Service Directive 2 was enforced, and you had 10,000 banks that had to comply in Europe alone. And that was represented by 50 banking networks. There were 7 different standards that popped out of that. There was the Berlin Group, all these other ones, and then it came up to other third parties to come and aggregate and make sense of all of that. Very different.
Okay, so we all kind of agree that this is pretty much a hard problem to solve, more probably because of human nature than technical aspects, which is how the world works. I'm curious, from your perspective, obviously, especially as you work on the decentralized exchange side of things and you deal with multiple chains, how do you ensure that from a user perspective, user can get the best price outcome or experience chain agnostic?
It's a good question, and so at the moment, each DEX is trying to solve that in their own way, as is each chain, right? So I know how we've sought to do it, and I mean, clearly, if you have a proper partnership with Foundation and with liquidity providers, the first step clearly to good trade execution is depth, concentrated liquidity, making sure you actually have sufficient depth at the price point. The second part, though, is if you're talking cross-chain, and a number of chains are struggling with this at the moment, is how do you do that cross-chain arbitrage to make sure that you can actually get the prices to be accurate. So if those of you who watched the 7 hours of Dromos video, whatever it was, a little while ago, who wanted to watch what was happening with Base, they were talking about using a series of bots essentially on low fee to enable that arbitrage to occur. For us, we see the same thing. We already have that bot running essentially, we call Apex bot. And the purpose of that is to be able to provide cross-chain arbitrage at 0 fee for us, which sort of undercuts others doing it, makes it more efficient. And then all that fee is then returned back to the users. So we don't keep any of that. That is a way to do it, right? So, and that's, again, that requires people to design it who are trying to build it for a protocol, for the protocol to succeed and for the chain. At the moment though, of course, market makers are not incentivized to share that. That's how they make their profits. So there's a little bit of, again, competing goals on where the money is made for each of the different protocols. So for us, we feel quite good, like morally and ethically, because our position returns everything back to users who are all linear native, so it works for our chain and works, we think, for everybody. But of course, there's benefits in multiple parties competing to do that type of thing on multiple chains. So it's a long answer to saying we think we're doing a great job.
I think for us, we are actually working with many dApps to help them get users from across different chains. We are integrating directly onto the application as an SDK, and the user, as long as they have funds in any of our supported chains, which are around 15 chains right now and growing, you can get your action done. So it doesn't matter whether I have funds on Linea or not. If I have funds on any other chain which is supported, I will be able to get the price action done, some asset bought, and this is all from within the same interface. So you don't have to go even to a wormhole, although we are internally using something like wormhole to actually enable that, but we want the user not to have to leave that. To extend last question's answer and merge with this, like when there are multiple different standards which come up, there also comes up entities like Visa, which actually makes it, the user not to have to care about any of the banking standards, right? I can use and tap. I know that someone is taking care of it. So there is some cut, there is some slippage. All of that is fine. Like I'm okay to pay 5% extra in Argentina because my bank may not have a direct relationship with a bank in Argentina, and that's fine. But what is not fine is for me to have to now scramble to get some funds on a particular chain just to get some application, to buy something and download an application and do something. So that's the feature of Apple Pay and financial rails that has given us, and similar things will appear in blockchains as well, which will abstract all these complexities out.
To your point about the kind of cabal-esque behavior, what's really interesting is when you tap your card anywhere in the world, it's a Visa, MasterCard, Diners card, they actually all have their own, and you'll know this as well, EMV code sits above all of these card issuers, and they actually get together and they agree on the standards for contactless. So on some level, they actually do agree on some standard which is in their best interest. I think what's really interesting is when you talk about like your banks having relationships, that's where I think it could be really interesting for blockchains in terms of disrupting things like correspondent banking flows, right? There's $50 trillion a day that moves over Swift. Swift doesn't care if we take like, a couple of points, 1% of that. What is that? Maybe $1 trillion off the top of that a day running through our systems. Fine. If we can get together and do things like disrupting correspondent banking, where when you pay someone in Argentina, it takes them 28 days to receive your funds because they go and they sit in some bank, one of 7 that has, this inventory in USD. We can get around that with on-off ramping, local stables issued by a trusted incumbent issuer who's often like a listed local fintech. Really great. On and off ramping by the instant payment scheme rails. Maybe we can also supersede cards. I think cards, to your point before, may not be a part of the picture unless those guys, they're making heavy investments in all the new infrastructure, everything from open banking to crypto, but they're spreading all of their bets, right? But I think we can truly supersede them because they're so embedded. These guys, correspondent banks, card issuers, we can definitely supersede local instant payment rails, on and off ramping, solid correspondent banking, and then it doesn't even matter what currency you hold, to your point. I don't even care what currency I hold at that point, right?
Correspondent banks are real dinosaurs, surely. They're going to be the very first intermediaries to die off. I mean, I wish them well, but they will find a new job. The thing is, they truly a relic of the past. So yeah, I think definitely reality is going towards a more peer-to-peer, a new version of reality is going to more peer-to-peer. Exactly how it's going to look like, we don't know, but definitely, yeah, correspondent banks. But even when it comes to identities, I mean, I'm European, and I love with the GPs, Multichain connecting Europe with the regulator. And MiCA is a nice set of regulations. It's quite smooth. I'm a MiCA white paper author, and even the process is new. It's a notification process. It's not approval process. You just send a paper. You need to justify why your coin is not security, and most of the coins are not security. There are very few and clear rules. And when it comes to identities, for instance, we need the regulations on that as well, because each and every single country in Europe, they go on their own. Identities, the European Union adopted DID, the W2C, the W3C, W2C standards back in the day. And notaries, why are there still notaries around? I mean, again, wish wish them well, but they clearly a link of the past. You don't need a central point, centralized point of faith or a centralized point of authority, because I mean, if you and I want to do business, build enough trust, we shake hands, we have a contract, and that's DocuSign. But DocuSign in Europe, you cannot sell a house, you cannot buy a house just by signing a DocuSign document, which is kind of nonsense, but the future is coming, so it's already unfolding before our eyes.
Okay, so for the final question of the night, when I have a bit of a different take, everyone usually asks, what do you think is going to happen in the next few years? My question is, based on what you guys are seeing as a common assumption around the themes that we talked about, so AI, multi-chain infrastructure, payments, what is a common assumption that you believe is going to turn out to be completely wrong in the next few years?
A common assumption that
be completely wrong, that people are all in on right now. But
I have many that I guess they're going to be all wrong, so I have very long list.
Like one or two chains win out, right? I think it's not going to be a 2-chain or 3-chain ecosystem. I think this is kind of the whole point of the discussion we were having. There's maybe going to be many chains, maybe we can make it worth this time.
I think there are many assumptions which need to be revisited once we see a lot of coming in. Like for example, suppose the fact that the retail does come in, right, and are starting to use blockchain rails. We do not have very simple primitives which they are so used to. I mean, I disagreed with his 24-word seed phrase, but I don't disagree with his reversibility of transactions, for example. The ability for me to dispute transactions, the ability for me to take privacy for granted, the ability for me to send money to you without revealing my bank balance. Like, this seems very simple, but those assumptions that we have that blockchains are ready, we have a lot of things to develop yet. And the other thing is that we think that the retail is going to come and love this. They are not going to love this. They are going to hate us like they're hating in our Discord servers, that this is stuck, this is not happening, and so on. So our infrastructure, I think someone in another panel told that we are not even used to figuring out a 99.59 infrastructure. Forget the real world coming in. We are not used to giving SLAs to people, right? We think that this is permissionless tech, come use it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's a bug, or just go and fix it. It doesn't work like that. If as soon as you start giving SLAs which are 4 nines, 5 nines, the amount of rigor that you need, the amount of production grade things that we need, I don't think we have developed yet in the blockchain ecosystem. I hope I'm proved wrong, but
a totally random one. I think there's a big narrative at the moment that finally meme coins are dead. This is going to be great. We don't have to deal with that shit anymore. I think it's definitely coming back again in the near future because retail still don't know how to invest in the great stories we're telling about. So everything we've just discussed here, I mean, of course, apart from there are some utility tokens out there, but everything we're talking about, people struggle to invest in it directly. They believe in the stories we tell. They believe in what Dinner's building. They believe in everything that's happening, but they don't know where to put their $500, and they want to turn that 500 into the great vision and turn it into $1 million. So they're going to go and they're going to buy some degen shit again, and they're going to go through this process again. They tried doing it on perp dexes, where they're all going to hyperliquid. They're all getting wrecked as they did on the 10th, and as did many of us in this room, so I'm not being flippant. People got nailed on that. I think that's one part, so people want to take the higher risk plays. They want to go further out on the risk curve, especially in crypto, and meme coins will come back for that very reason. I don't know if they're going to look like the crap we saw on Solana with thousands being built every day. I think they will have a different way of being done. I don't know what the new meta is. It'll be some kind of trusted meta that takes away that VC allocation somehow, and then provides some system where users feel at least that it's a fair and launch type scenario. So I think that'll come again, and I don't know when. When it does, obviously every DEX wants to be positioned to capitalize on that, but I'm hoping it's done in such a way that people can have some type of positive experience, because the Solana meme coin percentages, and I'm not here to throw anyone under the bus necessarily, but I think 0.4% of people made money, or something like that. Like, it's disgracefully bad. Like everyone else got it right, and I'd suggest that 0.4% were the scammers in the first place. So very, very few other people made money overall. So I think it'll happen again. It'll happen with a fairer sort of structure, and I don't know when, but I would suggest if 2026 is not a bear market, we'll see it in 2026 again.
Yeah, so they have an assumption about AI agent and the crypto or blockchain combination. So a lot of people said that only meme-coin about AI agent in the crypto world. But I think that in future this assumption will prove wrong, because they have a very good point of the combination about AI and the blockchain is payment. It's AI payment, especially for A-to-A payment, agent-to-agent payment. So in that case, the blockchain, the stable coin, will play a very important role in that case. Especially they can solve the problems of the AI agent identity, AI agent wallet, and they have very nature. So by nature, actually, blockchain is designed for AI agent payment from my view. Yeah. So I think that especially for future, the machine-to-machine payment, the agent-to-agent payment, they need blockchain, they need a stablecoin, they need a crypto wallet, they need a trust layer for all AI agents. Yeah.
It reminds me of a quote by Naval Ravikant, as I read in 2017, and he said public blockchains are the perfect substrate for AI, and that human beings are distinguishable from AI on a blockchain.
We love another quote.
No, I think we will see another couple of big changes emerging. The assumption is we'll stay around in the near future. Blockchain is here to stay, Bitcoin is here to stay. We'll see AI emerging and playing a central role, especially in the automation side of things. So a faster pace would be achieved by a mix of the various things. We will see chains connecting with each other, perhaps in a different way than we've seen so far, but most of us will stick around, I suppose.
Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the discussion. And hope everyone has a great rest of your night.